Alrighty, hello, this is Goldie Reviews. In this video I'm going to talk about some Imperator Rome. It's a game I've recently picked up and started playing off the Steam store after a sale with this latest 2.0 patch. And I thought I would give it a go and give my thoughts on this game. So we're just gonna continue this save here I have as the Antagonids. And I'm just gonna kind of talk about the game here. This isn't too scripted or anything. I have a few notes, but I didn't want to do a whole scripted video because that was just gonna take way too long. So the first thing that you really notice about this game, and I guess I'll start by saying that I previously have played lots of other Paradox games. Mainly EU4 would be my main one, but I've also played some Crusader Kings 3. And Stellaris as well. I have slightly played a little bit of Victoria 2, but not very much. But I have about 1,000 hours in EU4. So that would be my main comparison to this game. And I think just starting off, I could definitely recommend this game to a person who enjoyed EU4. EU4 is probably still my favorite Paradox game. It probably still beats out Imperator, but EU4 came out in 2013 and it has about 8 years of DLC now. So this game has only slightly the amount of content that EU4 has. So the first thing you notice with Imperator is this map is gorgeous. I honestly would say I even like it more than CK3's map, but CK3's map is also very beautiful. But I just love the colors, and the world is quite small, but this is the antiquity period, about 300 BC time period right after Alexander the Great's conquests of most of the known world at the time. So just to get into some other things, obviously, like I said, the map is beautiful, but the UI is also greatly improved. I did play this game a little bit when it first came out, and I played it on a free weekend, and it was good, but I couldn't really get into it and just stopped playing it after a couple hours. But with this new patch, I picked it up on a Steam sale for, I think it was $9. And then I also did buy the Heirs of Alexander DLC, which was also $10, which, if you're familiar with Paradox, is actually quite a good deal considering the amount of content they gave in that DLC pack. Yes. UI, that's what I was talking about. The UI has been changed greatly. It used to be these, if I remember, god pictures or something at the top here, but now it's changed and it's very similar to EU4's UI, which I like, and I think it's just a lot more clean and kind of simpler to understand, and helped me understand how to pick up this game and really start playing it. So, what really makes Imperator different, I would say, than EU4 is it is kind of a hybrid between that. Most people say it's a hybrid between Crusader Kings and EU4. And I somewhat agree with that, but I think it's more of a focused empire builder. EU4 is more of a map painter. You kind of just conquer what you want, and characters aren't too important. Really not much is important in EU4 besides conquering. I mean, religion and trade are important and some obvious other things, but religion and trade and culture, I would say, in Imperator are much more important, especially culture. If you see here, culture is broken down into pops. Imperator uses a pop system, somewhat similar to Stellaris, but not entirely. So you can see here, I'm playing as the Antagonids. So I have Macedonian culture as my primary culture. And then you have all these other cultures, Babylonians, which are going to be here at Babylon, and other places. You also have these great wonder systems that they add in there as of Alexander DLC, which I think are super cool. Just really flesh out the world. I think that's one of the main things. It's a real empire builder, and there's really important landmarks in the game. I mean, I own the pyramids as well right now, and it's just a true empire builder experience, which I really like. It's interesting because you can't really blob out as much as you would do per se in EU4, where you could just conquer and conquer and conquer as long as you had enough admin points. But this game, you really got to be focused on culture, because you will get, if you look over here, you will get lots and lots of issues in revolts and other things if you are not converting to your culture. As you can see here, this purple is Macedonian culture, this bluish color. And then all these other colors here are different culture groups of the pops. So as you can see, I've been slowly converting Egypt to Hellenic Macedonian culture. I've converted most of the Levant. And I just recently conquered Assyria and Babylon from the Seleucids over here. So I have not even started to conquer any of these or assimilate any of these conquered peoples yet. If you can see here, you can see their provincial loyalty. This is a very important thing in Imperator that I've noticed. Imperator, it's kind of interesting because I do like the culture system. It's very much deeper than EU4, but I mean, one critique I would have is that typically you're going to want to build these grand theaters and grand temple buildings a lot if you want to conquer and assimilate cultures effectively. In my opinion, you need to be building a ton of those buildings, so it can kind of get a little bit repetitive. But overall, if we just start playing the game a little bit and just show off what's going on. Another thing I really love about this game versus EU4 or any other Paradox game is the army or military system. I think is actually probably the best out of all those games I've played. You have your legions here, which are like the standing armies of the time, and you can have different tactics as you all can see here. So you have different types of units, and they'll be better in different tactics. You know, bottleneck, it's better for heavy cavalry and archers and heavy infantry, but phalanx, you want more light infantry and heavy infantry and not as much cavalry. And it's very interesting because depending on the region that you're raising these other levies, and levies are just the pops. So say if you go to Egypt, if I can find Egypt's levy, I don't know, I have quite a few provinces here, so bear with me if I can find it. Macedonia, Lower Egypt. See, Egypt has a supply train and heavy cavalry and some other integration of Argos. Okay, great. You can integrate and vassalize countries just like you do in EU4, which I like. It's a little bit different. I don't think the vassal system, in all honesty, is quite as robust, but it is very similar to EU4. I think if an EU4 player comes over to Imperator, that you will be fairly familiar with many of these things. Fabricating claims, for instance, we're going to fabricate on Arcadia here. It's all very similar. You can colonize, so we're going to colonize there. I would just say it's very accurate to the time period. And another thing, as you can see, is you have some very big empires in this game. Rome, Carthage, the Seleucids, the Marian, or the Magnahan now, will consistently get very big and powerful. So you will see a lot of countries that will blob out and get pretty big. And if you're playing a small country, a country like Rome, or and the Antigonids, or Egypt, which used to be here, now they're down here after I conquered them, but they'll be a great threat to you, and it will be very difficult to win these fights. And the Antigonid start is actually probably one of the harder starts in the game. from the start. This is a very challenging game, and I think on par with as challenging as some of the starts that you would have in EU4. Obviously, I don't think it's as fleshed out. So the Mediterranean, I would say this region, you know, Carthage, Rome, Macedon's a country here, the Antigonids are here, Sparta used to be here. I mean, there's the province of Sparta, but we've annexed them at this point. But the Mediterranean is very well fleshed out with great events and such. And the Seleucids, which are the Diadochi that are covered by the Heirs of Alexander pack, are also quite extensive. I hope this game gets more support and it can get some more DLCs to maybe flesh out the tribes in Northern Europe, or maybe give the Indian and these Tibetan Plateau and Silk Road regions a little bit more interesting things. I really would love if they did a DLC that included China, because China, the Han, were a great empire at this time as well, which I think would be very cool, because the Han and Rome were both massive empires out in the earth at this time period at the start date. So I think a DLC that would add China would be very cool, but that remains to be seen if they would expand the map like that. But the map, it seems kind of small if you're especially coming from EU4, you're used to having the whole world. This is only about the known world, just going from India all the way to the Atlantic and Western Europe. But there's just so many provinces here, guys. I mean, province, and then you have territories inside these provinces, so you can conquer individually every single one of these. So it's a lot bigger than it seems, is what I'm saying. But you also have culture and religion. I also like the religious system as well in this game. It's quite fun. As you can see, I made one of my former kings, Antigonos. He became a deity, which is quite cool. But you have all these holy sites. If you go to the religious map mode here, all these holy sites here that you can conquer. And if you change your god and have that god in your pantheon and own the holy site, you can put artifacts and other things in there. It's quite cool. It's a very fun little system that gives you something to do. Remember, you have some very interesting artifacts too. See the arms of Alexander, the sword of Alexander the Great's over in Bactria. You just have so many things. You have all the religious, the crown of Egypt, obelisk of Ramses II. Some very just cool historical artifacts of religious importance. I mean, you have the Hellenic religion, the Kemetic, which is the traditional Egyptian religion with, Ra as the head of the pantheon there. You have the Canaanite religion, the Druids. You have the Tustic, which is Germanic. I am not even sure what the Matrist is. The Hepadic is more like steppe horse warriors. And you have Bon, that's like a traditional Tibetan religion, Hindu, and then the Arabic religions, traditional Arabic religions. So there is quite a few. Oh, and also Zoroastrianism in Persia. So there's quite a few religions in this game. I mean, it's quite comparable to EU4, I would think, and it is made more interesting, I think, by these holy sites and pantheon deities that really kind of give you a direction to go towards and conquering things. But so I talked about culture, religion, military. Military is just very good because you can raise levies, and it's based on the pops in the area, so it's all coming from somewhere and makes sense in a way. And if you raise a legion from an area, you're not going to be able to raise the same amount of levies here. But another cool thing you can do is build roads, which I think is very interesting. I used to play Civilization as well, and building roads is a main staple of that game, but you never really did that in EU4 or Crusader Kings or any other game. Building roads wasn't really a thing, but in this game, the legions will for certainly build roads just like they did back in the Roman period. And roads are quite important in this game, especially if you have a vast empire like this. I have roads, I think, if you go to this Atlas map mode, which is also really cool, you can see the roads here that I've built to go all across the empire to connect everything. So I love that. It's an extra planning thing that you get to kind of do and can use to help strengthen supply lines or let your troops get to a kind of remote area faster. In one of my playthroughs is Rome. Roads are super important to conquering all of Gaul and these regions over in Central Europe. There's no roads here, so you're building tons of roads just like the Romans did, so you can quickly go smash revolts there. Yeah, we're accepting a omen right now, which is great. I think that's a super fun mechanic too. Just lets you get a little bonus that, you know, who doesn't like getting a bonus? It kind of makes who your god is a little bit more important. You know, you might want to call down an omen for Heracles for, you know, 5%, 6% discipline, or at this point it's only 3, but the higher your omen power gets, you can have better bonuses. So it's very situational in that way and kind of useful. But it looks like they built that road to there. I told them to build the road a little bit more. But I think that is what really makes Imperator a little bit different than EU4. Is you're really wanting to focus on your populations and making them happy. See, these slave pops are not happy, so we need to build buildings such as mills and other things to make them more enjoyable. I don't know if I think that's a new feature in this recent little patch here. I've never seen that before, but as you can see, this unrest is going to go towards this provincial loyalty. So if you have too much unrest, your province isn't going to be loyal, and then when the province's loyalty goes down to 0, they're going to revolt, which can result in some pretty interesting gameplay scenarios and pretty realistic. I mean, revolts in this time period were extremely common, almost more common than actual wars, revolts. So I think in a way it is a little bit annoying that you have to constantly go back and, quell revolts, but it is kind of a nice immersion feature, and realistically, if someone came in and conquered a whole region, the people are not just going to accept that willy-nilly. So overall, I think it makes the game a little bit more unique and is a good feature to have. So what else to talk about? Mercenaries. Mercenaries act very similar to how they act in EU4 and Crusader Kings. You just kind of hire them and they just go about, but they're all over the map, which is quite nice, and you can just hire them when you're ready to go to a war or something. So there's not too much to diplomacy. I would say diplomacy is a little bit more rudimentary than EU4, and Crusader Kings, but it's quite similar. It's kind of more of a similar Crusader Kings system, where as soon as you're allied, like, they're going to help you and join your wars almost indefinitely, but they'll break alliances with you quite often. And once you're at a different power status, like I'm super powerful right now, I think if we look at my overview here, that my country has 14,000 pops, 260,000 manpower. If you look at Rome has 4,000 pops. So at this point, I'm too big. I think I'm a great power, so I can't have any alliances at all, which I think is fair, because it wouldn't be fair if, the Seleucids and me could ally and then just destroy the whole world, essentially. So what's another thing to talk about here? Technology. Technology I actually like a lot. I like this better than actually probably any other Paradox game, except maybe. It's kind of similar to a Stellaris approach, where you have researchers and you're going down trees, but I do like this tree look. It looks a little daunting at first, admittedly. And there's a few things that are weird. Like I said, you need to get those great temple buildings, and those are unlocked by this one. And then, if I remember, the other one is gradual economic integration for the grand theaters. So you kind of need to get those ones. And then if you want legions, you need to get cohorts as well. So there's kind of a few things in the trees that are just you're kind of locked into and forced to do. But in general, I do like it. It really gives a customized look, and kind of you can personally change how you're going to specialize your country. It's interesting. If you're a larger country, you're going to want to spend, you would think you want it in military, right, to conquer everybody, but honestly, you probably want to spend most of your investments into religious and oratory. oratory and civics. I would say civics and religious for sure the most, because these help make pops happier and gives you more political influence, which is kind of like the mana of this game for like admin and diplo, but not exactly. But these are super important for a large empire, because these are gonna help with, you know, keeping pops happy and making money. Like a martial country, you're going to want to pick martial advances I had a Sparta playthrough, and I wanted to make Sparta extremely powerful militarily because you're so small and you have to just fight with many kingdoms and larger threats around you, so you can really invest into your military because you're not too concerned with controlling a huge population. So you see there's some characters here. I would say the characters they're kind of a weaker part of this game. I would say they're still, they're more impactful and memorable than an EU4 ruler character, which, I mean, they're really a non-entity. The only thing you care about are their stats. But in this one, there's some interesting little things. You have this dynamic of the great families, and you need to give these great families positions in your government. And this is, let's see here. If you go to every province has a governor. Well, every region has a governor, and then these provinces. So you can see here all my regions and their governors, this is pretty accurate to how Rome at least organized their territories with governors. And the governors can have corruption, which just affects how the province's loyalty, as well as the. See, that's not good. A 46 corruption governor there. But the problem is he's a member of that great family, and I can't get rid of him, or the family will be discontent, and they will try to overthrow me or assassinate me. Civil wars can happen as well. If you're pretty diligent, you can prevent that, which I like, but it's also a good, I think, interesting feature that's very accurate to the time period. I think that's what I like the most about Imperator, is it is just very accurate, and I think Paradox does a pretty good job with all of their titles of keeping it accurate. The mechanics are very accurate to the time period. So, you know, these roads that are being built and other things. See, we have a scorned family now, so who's upset? I'm not even going to try to say that, but the Green family. So I might actually go and do that. Let's see if I can replace this crappy governor here. See if I can find. See, we don't have anyone from the Green family to replace him with, which is unfortunate. Assyria doesn't have a governor though. Alrighty, I'm gonna pick this guy just because he's young and not corrupt. It's pretty good there for me. We'll do pop conversion speed. That's good. I'm sorry if I'm just kind of babbling on, but I'm just trying to show the game and get my thoughts. And the Navy is quite similar, not too different from EU4 or any other Paradox title. Crusader Kings, I don't even think you have navies, so just transports. But what I really like is just the cities of Imperator and being able to really develop them. Here's my capital here. You got 100 pops. You can build aqueducts to allow for more population and stuff such as that. But I would just say it is a good hybrid between Crusader Kings, and it takes some mechanics from Crusader Kings and some from EU4 and kind of, you know, does its own thing. And I think if you really enjoyed EU4, I think you're going to have a fun time with this game, with Imperator. If you're more of a Crusader Kings role-playing, you know, kind of person, you're going to have fun. But if you want character development, I would just suggest, and really interesting character interaction, I would suggest going and playing just Crusader Kings and, skip Imperator. Because the characters they're definitely interesting, but they are not, I would still say they aren't too much of a focus in this instance of the game. I mean, maybe with some improvements. See, now I was able to make that family loyal as I gave them a place here. But you'll have just quite a few things here. Another feature I really want to talk about, though, that I just think is amazing and I love it so much, is the automated army feature. So see, you can have defend borders, carpet siege, reconnaissance, keep in reserve, and independent operations. So if you set them on that, the army will go do just kind of the AI will take control of your army and do what it wants. It is still optimal for sure to control your armies, and if you're in a really close war, you should be, microwing and controlling your armies. But this feature is definitely a lifesaver when you're just trying to conquer maybe a smaller country. Let's see if I can declare war on Arcadia, and I'll show you how it works. So we want to find some pops, so we'll raise in Greece, and we'll raise in Thrace, and we'll raise in Macedon, and send them over here. And we'll just have them conquer it. And the nice thing is I can just declare war here. I know I'm easily gonna defeat these guys, so I'm just going to set these armies on independent operations, and they should just be able to easily win this war for me because the AI will just take care of it, which is just something I love, because if you're aware of playing deep campaigns into EU4 and something, that feature would be a godsend, because that is one of the biggest problems with late game EU4 is the microing of armies and all these other things, that there's just too many armies to manage, and it just becomes unfun because it takes 100 years just to make one move, and then the AI does something and then you got to move 10 armies to react to the AI. So I think that's just an amazing feature that saves time, and I really hope if they ever do an EU5 or Crusader Kings, I do believe also has the same feature. I can't quite remember, but if they do, they should also add it, because it just really saves a lot of time. I mean, obviously the AI is not perfect, but it's still, you see, they're gonna siege it down, and this AI will hunt and make sure to go get that army. But that's just a great feature. I think it's one of the best. Yeah, I haven't mentioned trade. Trade is interesting. I think it's more interesting than EU4 or Crusader Kings. I don't even think Crusader Kings worries about trade, but I would say generally you just want to accept all trades and then block the surpluses and deny any requests for food, because you don't want to trade away your food and have your pops starve. But if you go to your capital here, your capital is the only thing that matters with trade, but if you import certain trade goods from either your own territory or from others, you can get these special bonuses, which I think is just a nice little touch and can help kind of customize what you're looking to do here. Like, see, I have wheat, so I'm getting the local 10 food, and then I'm importing another thing of wheat, so I have a global food modifier for the whole country. So trade, it's really not too advanced, which I kind of like, but it gives you some unique decisions to make that you can kind of customize it. I haven't touched on the missions here. The missions, I think they're fine. Personally, I do like EU4's missions a little bit more. Some of these missions are a little ridiculous for certain things, and they definitely don't have the mission trees that certain countries in EU4 have. But I think, like I mentioned earlier, the issue with that is just there's just so many things of DLC and such that have been released for EU4, whereas I think Imperator, they have the Icarus content pack, which was free and just for Icarus, which is right here, and then you had the Punic Wars, which is Rome and Carthage, which were already pretty fleshed out as it is, and then they just added the Heirs of Alexander, which would be the Antigonids, Egypt, Seleucids, and then the Macedonians who used to be here, and that gave them pretty good mission trees. So I would say the like for right now I'm doing the Hellenistic Empire, which it is a little bit interesting, because I'm just gonna just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna abort this mission here, and then you can choose another mission tree to do. So say Cappadocia, Taricia is a province over here, and so in this one you're gonna want to fortify the borders and focus on doing stuff like that. which I think is an interesting touch, but still I kind of like EU4's just single tree a little bit more, but it might be a matter of personal preference. But there are missions here for you to do. Like I said, I would recommend playing in the Mediterranean region, and I would recommend, if you're going to buy the game, get it on sale. Like all Paradox titles, I would recommend getting them on sale because the DLCs are just going to be ridiculous. Eventually, as the game gets, later on its life cycle, for sure. So if anyone's watching this video, years later, I'm sure the game may have changed quite a bit, but I would still recommend it. But definitely try to get them on sale, just because of how many DLCs will eventually come out. But this Heirs of Alexander DLC added quite a bit. It added all the Diadochi and of Alexander, and then added these Great Wonder buildings that you can build. You can build your own Great Wonders as well, which it's fun. It's a little ridiculous because, let's see if I can find a place to build one, maybe. Yeah, okay, so here's the Great Wonder designer that comes with the DLC. I'm gonna pause real quick. It's fun. You get to, switch the tops up. You can do different things. See, this is a tower. You could do a building, kind of like the Parthenon or something. Pyramids, different types of pyramids and some other things. It's fun. You get to choose some bonuses, and it's great. But, look at the cost here. 4,000 gold. I have 4,000 gold right now, but like I said, I have a population of 15,000, which Rome has a population of 4,000, Carthage has 5,000, and then Egypt has 2,000, so Seleucid. So it's almost putting these three empires together equals my population. I still can barely afford the dang things. So they're very late game kind of thing, but they're at least interesting and kind of fun. You can customize them or name them. But I do like that they also just have, the great Temple of Zeus. They have a lot of just unnatural. I think the Colossus of Rhodes is here as well. So yeah, look at that. That's beautiful. I love all the detail that this game has in its map. Its map is gorgeous. It's one of my favorites. A game like if EU4 had a map like this, I'd probably never stop playing that game. So EU5, it'll probably be. I can't wait. But let's see. And characters, and like I said, characters aren't too big of an issue. They just kind of really fill out your government and do some different things. And trying to make sure I covered everything else. Nation overview, it gives you some decisions here. These are kind of like, Forum Macedon. It's just like a, actually I'm finished with this war here, so for the sake of the video, I'll Forum Macedon real quick. But, see, I left the AI to win the war for me, wasn't even paying attention, and there you go, won. And now I get to make a decision about what to do. I'll get rid of the aggressive expansion here. Need a person here. We'll pick this guy. Get to pick an invention. Let's see, clean water. See, and as you unlock them, you can continue to go down the trees, which I quite enjoy. You can call in another. Melkart, it's a Canaanite deity, which is fun because you can actually use different pantheon gods. Like even though Hellenic, we have a pantheon for a Canaanite god, which is interesting. Yeah, alright, they need a governor here. You can get a little micromanagey, but as you can see from this, but I really wouldn't say it's too much worse or any different than, EU4 or any of the other games. This is a very late game campaign for me. And in general, I think everyone agrees the most fun part of a Paradox game is at the start. It gets a little boring, obviously, once you conquer everything and you have no real challenge. But I didn't play this game in Iron Man personally just because I don't have the time to do Iron Man campaigns. I respect all of you all that like to do that, and there's plenty of achievements to do that for in this game as well, as Crusader Kings or EU4, but I just don't have time to do a lot of the achievement runs where it's if you make one mistake the whole run's ruined or whatnot. Maybe some people like to just have the challenge of doing an Iron Man run and just kind of see where the campaign takes you. And that's fair, but I kind of come in within any Paradox game, and I kind of have a goal for the campaign. Like this one, I wanted the Antigonids. I wanted to control basically the historic borders of the ancient Egyptian Empire. And I ended up doing that pretty, I just finished that up actually after being the Seleucids, but I actually went and conquered Greece too, which was fun. So I made a pretty powerful empire, so I'm pleased. What was I talking about? Economy, and yes, I was going to form Macedon here for you, just to show that you can form nations kind of similar to EU4. There's obviously probably not as many tags, because, you know, that's the whole world versus this is just a certain region. But I just formed Macedon now, so now I am Macedon, and I have a different color, and probably different traditions, and a few other things. They don't have any idea groups or like national ideas like EU4, which I think it would be fun just to, there's a few things. You go to overview, you have heritage of Antigone, so that's actually from the Antigonids, but you have a few things like that's kind of your national ideas there. It's your heritage. It's quite similar. Government is just different positions, and that relates back to your political influence here, which is political influence is basically what you use to do anything diplomatically for the most part. But there's also other things. You got governor policies for every province, and if you want to change that, you need political influence. If you want to declare, if you want to get claims on an area, you need political influence. If you want to change laws, if you go to government here, that's another thing. There's laws in this game, which I think is interesting. So if I want to change desired citizen ratio, I'm going to need to use stability and political influence. Stability is also interesting because, you know, obviously, I don't think Crusader Kings has stability, if I remember correctly, and EU4 does have stability. And it works a little differently because EU4 only has that scale of -3 to 3. And I prefer this actually because it's just kind of a wider range of you go to a 0 to 100, and 50 is positive stability. You have AE as well, which is something that I think everyone's aware of from EU4. Personally, I don't like AE, but it's not too big of a problem in Imperator, at least. I've known. You don't want it to get too high because it will start to affect more of like its stability change and then loyalty of like client states and such. But there's no coalition system in this game, which is nice. But if you have a really high AE, that'll make your population unhappy because it starts tanking the stability, which then, as you see, that kind of changes the population happiness and growth and research and stuff. So you don't want to have too high of that. That's war exhaustion, kind of the same thing. It's pretty common in all Paradox games and does the same thing. It just basically prevents you from being at war forever. And tyranny is interesting. That's a unique mechanic to EU4, or not to EU4, but to Imperator, that basically just prevents you from kicking a bunch of people out, or you can kill a bunch of people. It's also in Crusader Kings, I think, about tyranny, and it's kind of, you get it from a similar thing, you know, being brutal, executing people, you know, destroying or killing a bunch of people in a different country in a war, maybe, certain things like that. Alrighty, well, I've kind of broken everything down. Economy here, it's pretty simple. It's not as complicated as EU4, which I kind of like, at least from the trade. You got taxes, which are just from the pops that are in your empire. Commerce is from the trade that other empires are trading with you, and you're trading with them. You make money. And then tribute, so that's all your income. And then obvious expenses, you got to pay for your armies, your fleets, your forts, and then the wages is for all your characters. Like you see your governors, your researchers, all these people here, you got to pay them a wage, which it's realistic, it's fine. And if they're more corrupt, their wages cost more too, which is, you know, annoying, but you know, probably realistic. That's pretty much everything though. You got a good outliner here. It's very similar to EU4's outliner as well. Map modes, civilization levels, kind of like development, if you're familiar with EU4. Population, that just shows how many pops. Government types are interesting. They're not too different, but you got republics like Rome, and then monarchies are mainly the two, or an empire, which is, you know, they're kind of dictatorships essentially. There's not too much to say about governments in my opinion. And then you got all the provinces, which are kind of like, I would say they're like states. They're equivalent to the states of EU4, I would say, a province, and then regions, which are the larger regions, which will have many provinces in them. I mean, you got, and these will all have their governors and such. And opinions, that's just who likes it, who doesn't. And then holdings, that is, each character will have holdings, which is interesting because that is kind of like Crusader Kings. But honestly, I don't know too much about this system. And I know you can revoke holdings, and that can reduce, a character's power if they're trying to start a civil war. But that's really all that I ever focused on. And then levies here is where you can get your levies, and I think shows where they're raised and such. This is just the standard political map mode that you'll probably want to play most of the game in. And then I really do like this Atlas map mode. This kind of shows you your empire. Like I said, it was showing the roads earlier, but it shows all the cities, all the temples. We zoom out a little bit, it shows the biggest cities. Like you got our capital here, you got all the temples in Egypt, all the temples in Babylon, all the temples in Greek. There's Pella, which is our capital of Macedon now. So I don't know. These are just my thoughts on the game, and I would just say for a final recommendation that I think if you liked EU4, I would say pick this game up on sale. It's gotten a lot better from the free weekend that I played it on. It's actually quite addicting. I would say right now it definitely is not at the level of EU4, just with the amount of content and variety. And I think after you do a campaign of Rome and maybe Carthage and some of these bigger empires, it will kind of get a little bit stale, and they'll have less flavor essentially, and just unique events and such to do. But hopefully this game will get more support from Paradox, and they'll kind of flesh out some other regions that right now are kind of just, states that are just meant to be conquered, in Gaul and such. I mean, you can still form nations like Britannia and Gaul here, but they're not too different. And I tried playing a tribe. It's not very fun just because you're just so behind in tech and stuff. I mean, it's very similar to a Native American campaign in EU4. It's just very difficult and kind of boring at the start because you can't do too much. But overall, like I said, if you're looking more for character stuff, I would say stick with Crusader Kings. It's still interesting, but the characters they allow for some unique gameplay, but it's still about the empire, and it's still more of a map painter. But I would say this is a true empire builder game because this game is about conquering and doing that stuff, but it's also about assimilating, creating, great wonders and road systems, and having an efficient, government, and passing the right laws and getting the right technology. So you're really building your empire through technology, diplomacy, conquest, just like ancient Rome or Alexander's empire or any of these other empires of antiquity would do. So as a final just recommendation, I would say definitely pick this game up if you're a fan of EU4. I think give it a shot when it's on sale. The good thing is really I think you could probably just buy. I've seen the game on sale for about $9 lately. But if you get a chance, just pick it up on sale, and I would say buy the Heir of Alexander's DLC. The other ones, I think there's some free packs, and the other ones you don't really need. You don't need the deluxe edition either. But buy the Heir of Alexander's DLC, and for a first campaign, Crete is a good one. This little area here, it's kind of like Tutorial Island. Thinking Ireland and Crusader Kings, or even Ireland and EU4. It's these are all little small kingdoms at the beginning of the game. I can go actually exit here, go to the start, new game. I can show you all. Also, the loading screens are very pretty, but I will show the start map and just kind of talk about maybe some good first campaigns to do. Alrighty, so Crete here. This is a good one. I would say start as like Knossos. They're autocratic monarchy, pretty easy start, and then you can kind of just work on figuring out the mechanics and conquering this little island, and then you can form Crete as a nation, which is fun. And then if you don't get killed by Egypt or somebody, you can try to maybe conquer some parts of Greece or Anatolia over here. In my campaign, I actually went and conquered Cyrenaica, which was interesting. Sparta's fun. That's a tough campaign. But the Diadochi of Alexander, the Heirs of Alexander DLC, Macedon, Thrace, Antigonids, Seleucids, and Egypt are super fun. Carthage is fun, and Rome. Rome is a very good campaign. Rome it looks small now, but Rome is actually pretty easy and a good first one. You'll be able to do quite a lot with that country. There's some also other interesting starts. I think Shangshung's a cool one if you want to unify Tibet. Bactria is really interesting. Parthia is cool if you want to do Persian. Same thing with Armenia or Aramea. That's an interesting campaign. Bosphorene Kingdom's cool. But there's really, as you see here, there's just so many little tiny tribes and starting nations that you could pick here. So I'm not sure what the total nation count is, but it is probably quite honestly comparable to Crusader Kings or EU4 in that regard. But like I said, if you want just something different and enjoy Paradox games, I would totally recommend this game. Sorry if it was a little rambly, but I just didn't really want to write out a whole script for this game. I kind of just talked for a long time now. It's about 45 minutes, but that's okay. I just wanted to kind of get my thoughts out and just recommend this game because I really had a fun time playing it, essentially. So let me know what you all think, and if you disagree with me, just let me know in the comments. But I think I'm gonna call it a video and get Imperator, guys. If you're bored, give it a shot. All right, this has been Goldie Reviews with just a little. It's just a quick little off-the-cuff review of Imperator Rome. So subscribe and like if you enjoyed this video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you, guys.